As a suspicious fire mars a mosque construction site in Tennessee, and as shots are fired at that site, opposition to the proposed Islamic Community Center in New York may be engendering something even worse. In our fourth story, a brand new recruiting tool for the Taliban in Afghanistan. First, at the expansion of the Islamic Center of Murfreesboro, Tennessee, 4 pieces of heavy construction equipment were set ablaze early Sunday morning with the help of an accelerant, according to authorities there. A federal investigation is underway. Later the same day, there were reports of shots being fired near that same construction site. Muslim congregation members were surveying the fire damage when they heard 9 shots, though they were uncertain as to their proximity. Meantime, the ongoing opposition to the Park 51 Islamic Community Center in New York might now be used by the Taliban in Afghanistan. Taliban operative Zabihullah telling Newsweek, quote, "By preventing this mosque from being built, America is doing us a big favor. It's providing us with more recruits, donations, and popular support." He explained that the Taliban uses it as part of a list of talking points in meetings with villagers and potential recruits. We talk about how America tortures with waterboarding Guantanamo, about the killing of innocent women and children in air attacks, and now America gives us another gift with its street protests to prevent a mosque from being built in New York. Another Taliban official who remains active in the insurgency told Newsweek, quote, "I expect we will soon be receiving more American Muslims like Faisal Shahzad who are looking for help in how to express their rage." Shahzad confessed to the Times Square bombing plot. Let's call in MSNBC terrorism analyst and senior partner with Flashpoint Global Partners, Evan Kohlmann. Good evening, Evan.
Good evening.
Now, it's easy to see how Taliban members might want to shoot off their mouths with reporters and making claims, and, you know, they are as full of crazy spin as anybody else who might get near reporters. What is your sense of how true this might be, that this Islamic Center issue may actually being used as a recruiting tool?
It's really quite simple. The same way that people are using this issue to rally foolish people here in this country and get them all worked up, the Taliban are doing the exact same thing in Afghanistan. Zabihullah Mujahid is not just a representative of the Taliban, he's their chief spokesman. And while this may be for propaganda purposes, there's no doubt they're using this. They've used the Quran burning episode, they've used the Prophet Muhammad cartoons. All of these are wonderful symbolic issues to whip people up into a frenzy. Now, whether or not they're justified in doing this, it will succeed. And look at what Faisal Shahzad said. Look at what Nidal Hassan wrote to Anwar al-Awlaki. They reflected not only issues going on in the Muslim world outside of the United States, but issues going on inside of the United States. We have to be very careful here. Up until now, there's only been a scattering of American Muslims that have been recruited into terrorist plots or terrorist networks. But if we keep up this crazy rhetoric and we keep alienating people, then I guarantee you there will be other people that will follow in this path, and most likely they will be American Muslims who have been exposed to this nonstop for the past 3 weeks. Talk about how Islam is a devilish religion, how Muslims are evil. This is entirely unproductive, and it's mostly the work of chicken hawk politicians who are putting our troops' lives at risk and our civilians' lives at risk.
But to get this in perspective, it strikes me that as provocations go, or recruitment tools go, this sounds like one of the weaker ones. I mean, you know, he rattled off torture in Guantanamo Bay and the killing of innocent women and children. Doesn't that sound like a more effective tool than, you know, some people on the streets of New York, you know, yelling about where they want things located?
It has to do with the timing, really. You have to understand that the Park 51 controversy is not taking place in a vacuum. It's taking place at the same time where you have the incident down at the Murfreesboro Mosque, you have protests elsewhere in the United States against mosques, and you have a crazy lunatic out in Gainesville who wants to burn Qurans for fun. All of this is coming together, and it's getting noticed by al-Qaeda and by al-Qaeda supporters. And their greatest fear on the part of al-Qaeda is that the mosque itself will be built, because they view that as some kind of plot by President Obama to win back the dignity and honor for America. So they're not afraid about the mosque not being built. They're hoping that we will build it, or rather they're hoping we won't build it. They're against this 100%. I mean, you have to understand that their perspective is that they want us to tear each other apart. They want this country to tear itself apart with racial and religious prejudice and conflict. And we are falling right into that trap. It's disastrous. It's a terrible mistake. And it's unfortunately, we're falling into a trap that they've set for us.
But we don't want to suggest there's anything we could actually do to tone down their recruitment rhetoric. I mean, if we actually did build the mosque and it was underway next week and there was a ribbon cutting, you know, a month later, they'd still be spinning all the same nonsense, all the same provocative stuff to their recruits.
Look, mosque or no mosque, let's just end the rhetoric. Let's stop calling Muslims evil. Let's stop talking about Sharia like it's some kind of flesh-eating virus. Islam is a religion like all other religions. Muslims have a right to pray and practice their faith in the United States without being demonized. If we demonize them, we will suffer the consequences of that. It is entirely unacceptable. And again, it is American servicemen out in the field who are trying to negotiate with our Muslim allies and are trying to win our Muslim allies in the fight against al-Qaeda, who are facing this problem firsthand. If you want to help out American servicemen in the field, if you want to help out American diplomats, if you want to make America the shining city on the hill, then we have to live up to these principles. We can't just talk about the Constitution or talk about the Bill of Rights. We have to live up to that. We have to show an example that other people can respect us rather than fear us.
MSNBC terrorism analyst Evan Kohlmann demonstrating clearly that the location of that mosque in New York is not, as some politicians like to call it, a local issue. Thanks for your time tonight, Evan.
Thank you very much.